All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Lit in English. It's been roughly about a month since we are back with the journey. So thank you for joining us. And this is season six of Lit in English. And in this season, we are going on a journey of understanding our inner self, lit up a path to happiness as whole being. So in this journey, we are as the fellow journeyer will explore and together we will study the depth of the inner world. And in that way, we have better understanding of how to acquire happiness as whole being. So thank you so much for joining us today. And in this presentation, we are going to the third part of the human structure. So just a quick recap before we uh, went to today's presentation. The human structure as we borrowing knowledge from the Buddha teaching tell us that in our human structure, deep within our inner self, in our inner core, we have the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant aura. And that is the innermost of the human structure. And then surrounding that, we have the 16 human nature, and those are admission, imagination, action, conscience. That would be one of the layer of the 16 human nature. And then right next to that, we have prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And the outermost of the 16 human nature, we have greed, anger, delusion, arrogance, skepticism, evil, and bias. And out of those 16 human nature is surrounded by the yin and yang electromagnetic field. As you can see on the drawing here, we have the red line represent for the positive electromagnetic, and then the blue is representing the negative electromagnetic field. And the outermost, we have 84,000 bubble of illusion, and then the four elemental body, which is also surrounded by the yin and yang electromagnetic field. Now, that is the human structure, but to put it into a much simpler form, and as we go over today's presentation, we will revisit the information that we have presented in the previous two presentations. So I know that it has been a while, but it will make a lot more sense when we go over everything. All right. So let's simplify the human structure now a little bit more so that we can discuss this in a much deeper detail. All right. So at this time, I would like to invite you to grab another piece of paper. All right. Okay. So for the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant aura. To keep it simple, let's us go ahead and draw a circle. And let's just call this the heart, just so that we have a simpler term. And let's call this is the heart. right? And the outer layer, the 16 human nature. Let's call this the mind. And the outer layer, this will be, let's use the term from the scientific perspective. Let's just call this the emotion layer. Emotion. And if you can recall, this is the 84,000 bubble of illusion and the outermost layer. And let's call this the body. Right. So what we did just now, we simply simplify the human structure down to its element, right? So instead of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, the will to know, surrounded by radiant aura, let's call it the heart, the innermost of the person. And then for the 16 human nature, admission, imagination, action, conscience, prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, resting, greed, anger, delusion, arrogance, skepticism, evil, and bias. We call it the mind. And the 84,000 bubble of illusions, we call it the emotion. And the four elements, body, earth, water, air, and fire, we simply call it the body. Okay. And if we have any question here, by the way, so if you have any question, feel free to type in the chat, or you can raise your hand so that we can interact at this part here. Because the reason I'm simplified to the four elements so that we can analyze, so that we can understand the human structure in a much deeper level. And the secret that most spiritual practitioner would like to get to is to understand the heart of man. You might hear this expression uh, before, but when it's come to the human structure, we often familiar with our body because we have to use our body every day. And then we can even observe our emotion as in how we feel through our day. And then there are some great thinker. They study the mind, they study the human nature, they try to understand why people behave in a certain way. But there is a much deeper level, there is a much deeper layer of the human nature, of the human structure, and that is the heart of man. And in order to understand the heart of man, understand the concept of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, we we have to understand a concept called inner peace. So let's go ahead and discuss that a little bit more. So when I speak about the will to hear, the will to speak, the will to see, and the will to know, surrounded by the radiant aura, as well as the heart layer, I want you to think about a word, a very important word that most spiritual practitioners will lean in toward, and that is inner peace. Inner peace. Now, what is inner peace and why is it so different? And why is it so important? And in order to understand this, we have to understand a person's happiness. Where does happiness come from? And a person happiness can come from pleasure or from inner peace. And thanks to expert, thanks to the grandmaster, we get to learn about this very simple but very important description. And I would like to repeat that one more time. A person happiness can come from pleasure or from inner peace. And because of that, it is very important to distinguish whether a person's state of happiness derived from pleasure or from inner peace. And most people out there, most people in the world would seek happiness through pleasure. All right. And in the human structure, we can see that when people fulfilling their desire of prosperity, of beauty, fame, eating, or resting, we define them as seeking happiness through pleasure. All right. To be clearer, let's say the idea of money. People would chase after money to find happiness. They would chase after beauty, right? Having a beautiful girlfriend, for example, or boyfriend, husband, or wife. People would go seeking it. They would go after that. And then people would also go after fame, right? After they get all the money, they want to be famous. Or in some other case, people get famous through their skill or talent, and then they gain more money. They use that money to increase their beauty. And there's also pleasure in eating, right? There's a report saying that eating is the second most pleasurable thing in life besides sex. So eating is a big deal. And then resting is another desire too. And you might think that resting is just simple taking a nap or sleep, but resting can also be understood as going to a five-star hotel resort, for example, go to a beautiful beachfront to rest and relax. So a person happiness, I can tell you, is all simplified to all five area, and that is prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. Any business in the world, in fact, all of the successful business all around the world simply fulfilling people reside in one of these five elements. And the biggest one is definitely prosperity, right? Since day one that we are born into this world, we what we taught that we gotta do well in school. We have to get a good degree so that we can get a good job, so that we can make money, because money can give us the life that we desire. And I can tell you that is not true, but that is the belief that most people were taught, because people think that money will solve everything. And when some people acquire money, when people acquire prosperity, they they realize that happiness only lasts for a split second. And this has been proven by a research study on lottery winner, right? So I forgot the researcher name, but there's a famous research on lottery winner. And the research found out that after interview all of the lottery winner, the expert realized that the moment of happiness from winning the lottery only lasts for a few days to a few weeks. And then after that, people fall back to how they feel prior to winning the lottery. And then people are chasing after that feeling through, let's say, hanging out with a lot of model. They would enjoy that fame, they want to be famous, they enjoy that moment. And then they spend a lot of money eating good, go spend a lot of money on vacation, and they experience happiness through a lot of pleasure. But what happened to them is that as they experience those, happiness only lasts for a short term. They would get to a point where they start losing purpose of life. And if they are lucky, they would find happiness through inner peace. And this is very, very important. This has got to be one of the most important presentation in this entire journey. And it will demonstrate the importance of finding your heart. It will show you the importance of gaining the genuine truth in the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, because that is when you reach true inner peace, which means happiness through inner peace. And the expert tell us that that is the state, the inner perception, when desire through prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting, it all of those desire are released, stopped, ended, or dissociated. So inner peace is a state of inner perception that originated from the genuine truth within oneself, arise from listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing without attachment to the layer of ego and human affection. And inner peace is a state of inner perception that a person know that they are listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing. And this initiation creates the anti-self within, emitting the radiant energy of peace. So that is a lot of description when it's come to inner peace, but let's explore that further. Okay. I don't know why I'm raising my hand. I don't want to lower my hand, but anyway. Let me go on to read the description one more time of the difference between happiness through inner peace and happiness through pleasure. Okay, if you really, really think about it, the entire purpose of life is the pursuit of happiness. And unfortunately, most of us are seeking happiness through pleasure and we circling around that 84,000 bubble of illusion. So once again, happiness through pleasure is an internal emotion state when temporary desire and thought about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting are satisfied. And that is very different. That is very different compared to inner peace. Happiness through pleasure is more about the material world, right? Happiness through inner peace is a state of inner perception when desires and thought about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting are released, stopped, ended, or dissociated. Inner peace is a state of inner perception that originated from the genuine truth within oneself, arising from listening, from seeing, from speaking, from knowing without attachment to the layer of ego and human affection. Inner peace is the inner perception that one is listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing. And that initiation create an empty self within, emitting the radiant energy of peace. All right. So those are the description. And what it's saying is that when we release our desire of prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting, we simply achieve peace. We no longer chasing after prosperity. We no longer chasing after beauty, fame, eating, nor resting. And when you stop chasing the illusion of happiness, which is happiness through pleasure, that is when one can truly find peace. Now, why do people want to achieve inner peace? If anyone ever wondering that, uh, why do we see um, a wise man or a spiritual practitioner, why would they talk about inner peace? And what is so good about stopping the desire of prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting? Why would one choose that life? What if I tell you that inner peace by reaching to the state of inner peace, you will understand yourself better. What if you, yes, of course, Jasmine said that it is for happiness, and that is from the description. But why do we feel happiness when we reach inner peace? I can tell you that once you reach inner peace, you will have uh, a more conscious of yourself, right? You have a better connection with your higher self, your higher self. You will be able to elevate your wisdom. So you will gain more wisdom, and most importantly, you will uh, you will be able to experience the genuine truth, gen genuine. Let me make sure I find genuine and truth. Now, what is the genuine truth? Before I get to the genuine truth, let's discuss a little bit more about your higher self and wisdom. When you reach to the state of inner peace, which is the innermost layer of the human structure, you will have a connection with your higher self. Remember that the voice that in your mind that giving you wisdom, that giving you a lot of advices throughout your life, that helping you getting through the tough time. Inner peace will give you a better connection to that, and then your mind will expand, will gain wisdom, and all of that beautiful things come from the genuine truth within yourself. And the genuine truth is or are the things that does not change through space time. And in order to understand that, we have to circle back to our presentation a couple of weeks ago regarding the total karma in each of a person's life. So there's a concept that we have been living through many lives, and we accumulating a total karma, what we call it the total karma of knowledge, the total karma of affinity, the total karma of result. And through all of that, we cultivating a mass of that karma, the mass of good karma and the mass of radiant karma. So the genuine truth within ourselves is the absolute truth, the absolute knowledge of the world itself to the many lives that we live. And by reaching that inner peace, you will be able to connect to true knowledge. And because of that, you will realize that it is pointless to have the desire through prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And you can have that understanding once you connect, when you find your genuine truth. And I can tell you that it is absolutely true because I have made observation of people who spending all their life chasing after prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And they achieve the highest of the high when it's come to pleasure. They travel the world, they have all the money in the world, they gamble all their money, and they still cannot spend all of it. They go to all of the most pleasurable things that you can think of. Anything you can think of, they've done it already, and yet they are very depressed. They have to go through um, some rehab center for the extremely rich and wealthy, just so that they can feel that they are alive because they have done everything already. Their life become meaningless and they just don't know what to do because happiness through pleasure is temporary. Happiness through inner peace is what permanent. And by connecting to the innermost, to the heart layer of your human structure, you will gain the understanding of life itself. You will understand the meaning of of this word literally. And I know it's very vague, but my intention for today's presentation is is a formula of how to reach to how to reach inner peace, how to acquire the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know of your higher self that lives deep within your inner self. And that is the genuine truth of oneself. Um, before we go any further, does anybody would like to share your thought, or if you have any question, or maybe just express how you feel when I present this information? And Liana asked, "Do we have recording for this presentation?" Yes, we have a recording. I will personally send you the link for Logic. And let me see if I have my friends Giovanni and Vicky in the call. Oh, I see Giovanni. If it's suitable, if it allowed, I would love to hear your thought on inner peace, higher self, wisdom, and genuine truth. It doesn't have to be relatable to the presentation today. I just want to hear the perspective of the West, and then we will go further in how to acquire inner peace, a formula that many people seek for, but many have failed to acquire. So if possible, I would like to invite Giovanni to share some thoughts. Thank you. Mm. I can see Giovanni, but I cannot hear him. His mic is unmuted. Can anybody hear him?
I think he's joining with another device.
Uh, yeah, I know sometimes he has difficult with his Bluetooth. So let's uh let's give Giovanni some time. All right, so I know that you can hear us, so just take your time while waiting for you to run. I'm gonna go ahead and start a new drawing based on the heart, mind, emotion, and body. For the mind, we can actually call it the ego as well. So let me just go ahead and change that in the next drawing. And this drawing will help us understand the path to our heart. Again, Giovanni, feel free to speak up when possible. So let's go ahead and draw the inner circle again. And let's write connect the heart. After three layer. This time, I'm not going to draw the circle for the body. I'm going to only draw the heart. Now let's call the mind layer of the ego and emotion. Right. We have this that's just called the 16 human nature is our ego. It's a better term. And then for the 84,000 bubble up illusion, we can simply call it the emotion. So thanks to the Grandmaster, we get to learn that when information come to us, it's well, the word information. Information. So when information come to us, we allow it to go straight to the innermost layer, right? And for this, I'm gonna need to use an example to help us understand. So again, there are three layers of our inner self, which is our heart, our ego, and our emotion. So imagine when information come to us, the way that we accepting that information can let us know if we have reached inner peace or not. And I wonder if Giovanni can speak now, because I do want to hear his thought on inner peace before we go further, and maybe some interaction for this as well. Yeah, I think I can hear something from you. You speak again, Giovanni. Yeah, it's weird. You can't really hear. All right. Well, feel free to speak again when possible. I know you have many devices. All right, let's go back to this case
Hey,
here.
Ben.
Oh yes, I can hear you now. Great. I heard like, "Hey Ben," and then that was it. Okay, I hear some noise.
Hear me?
Yes,
Hear me? Yes.
there's some echo. Yep.
All
All
right,
right,
Benson.
Benson.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Can you
I
just want to
mute
make
the
sure
other.
you hear me?
Yeah, I mute the other one so I can hear you clearly now. Oh, don't mute yourself.
Unmute this one. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep, much better.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I really have no idea what happened to my computer just now. All right, so I just wanted to go back to talk a little bit about the inner peace portion of it. So I think that that's probably the most substantial information that we really want to grasp here. So what's the purpose of, finding inner peace, and what does that mean to us? And basically for me, inner peace is the only thing we can really control. It's the one thing that we have a say so. And what it does is allows us to balance, to find ways to balance our heart and mind, which helps us to create this harmony. And how does that relate to happiness? Well, basically, whenever we go off into a venture to find inner peace, what we're asking for is we want a stable foundation for happiness. Happiness is always a choice, but we want to always choose what's authentic to us when it comes to happiness. And that means by finding inner peace within ourselves, we're able to maintain a state of calmness or centeredness. And then that allows us to find the balance everywhere else. Now, if you were to go back to the other diagram there, yep, right there. So you have will in the middle, and that's our only power is the will. The will is our choice. So if that's our power, what are we choosing to hear? What are we choosing to know? What are we choosing to see? What are we choosing to speak? And you said it earlier. You said it's the genuine truth, right? It's whatever truth is for us. So if we were to put a capital T right there next to here, and that be truth, then that shows you that heart center, that's our true power. When we use truth, we're able to hear truth, we're able to know truth, see truth, speak truth, and that's all we need in order to really, go on this adventure called life. to find this inner peace within all of us. And that's going in within ourselves, because the way I see it is you have eating, fame, beauty, prosperity, and resting. So if willpower is our true power, that's our energy source, what does eating do for us? Eating helps us take this energy, it helps us fuel our body, it helps us fuel our mind. And that provides us with all the energy we need for all of our activities, you know, which include our growth as well. I see resting as important when it comes to energy, because that's how we recharge, that's how we restore our energy, our power. And that's essential. If you wanted to jump very high, you're going to first rest your feet planted on the ground first before you attempt to jump really high. So it's important for us to find rest, you know, in our daily lives, to keep us kind of like refreshed and ready to use our highest potential. Prosperity, I see prosperity kind of like that's us experiencing abundance. It's our limitless opportunities. This is something that, you know, no other person can put an amount on. This is something that we determine. That's one of our true powers, to be prosperous in our life. And all that means is to have enough energy, enough resources to pursue whatever goals we want when it comes to our growth. You know, for us that are looking for happiness, it's going to be, you know, using our prosperity to find, you know, resources so that we can know what inner peace truly looks like to us. Beauty, I think, it's another way that we get to appreciate and experience the world, you know, our fullest potential, is by that energy called beauty, I think, because what that allows us to do is to take this energy that's all around us in all the different forms, whether it's nature, whether it's relationships, whether it's art, and for us to make sense of it so we can find inner peace outside and translate that inner peace within ourselves. And then fame is another way that we can use energy, either good or bad. You can use energy good or bad. But having, you know, that potential of fame means that you're being recognized and you're being celebrated, not by yourself, but by others, other people. And what that does, it helps amplify the energy. It helps amplify our influence. It helps us inspire others. It helps us to motivate ourselves and, you know, other people. And all of that is absolutely necessary for inner peace when you use it in a positive light. And I think that, you know, that's one of the things that I see when I see this diagram. It's just like a roadmap on how to choose, you know, happiness in your all everyday experiences. You know, when you know exactly what your goals are and what your goals should be, you're not using greed, you're not using bias or evil or anything like that. You're using the opposite form of that energy exchange, which is all positive. And I think that as long as we take the positive, you know, and take that to heart with us and make all of our decisions from our heart center, we're going to experience inner peace. And I think rather quickly, because it's authentic to us.
That is a beautiful analysis, Giovanni. And to build on that, I think you are absolutely correct regarding how we utilize our energy to experience our life in this physical world through prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. One thing that I can point out to you guys is that there's a lot of references and perspective that we can build from this one simple diagram. And if we were to use this diagram to discuss happiness, let's look at the 16 human nature as a path to happiness. So the outermost layer, the 7 human nature, which are greed, anger, delusion, arrogance, skepticism, evil, and bias, right? You can see this as the first step toward happiness. And what do I mean by that? as you can see, all 7 of these words tend to be negative, and it is the pursuit of happiness by leaning away from pain. Can everybody imagine? So we want to move away from greed, anger, delusion, arrogance, skepticism. We want to move away from evil. We want to move away from being biased so that we can get closer to happiness. So there's a definition of happiness as the absence of pain. So there are people they just don't know happiness. They're in such a bad situation where all they know is pain. So by definition, less pain equal to happiness. So this is the very, very foundation. That's the very, very first step to on the journey leaning toward happiness. And then what Giovanni just explained earlier is the second layer, the second level to happiness, which is the layer of prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And that is defined by happiness through pleasure, right? Happiness through pleasure is an internal emotion state where temporary desire and thought about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting.
Mhm.
Pretty powerful because there are people who can afford that, they have money to fulfill that. They have enough beauty around them. They have fame. They eating good. They're resting well, and they find their happiness, even though it is only temporary. And for those who have already acquired those 5 elements, which is extremely difficult, by the way, I'm not saying that it is easy. Most people are still stuck at prosperity. But let's say one who can fulfill all 5 elements of prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting, which is happiness through pleasure, there's a higher layer. That is the last 4 of the human nature, which are admission, imagination, action, and conscience. And you can find this in great thinker of the world. You can find this in the spiritual teachers of the world, where they taking in information, where they do their practicing, and they expand their knowledge, their understanding of the world. And by doing that, they are getting closer to inner peace. And those who have acquired an enlightenment or an awakening of the inner peace, they're not doing it through prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, resting. They do it through studying. They do it through practicing. They do it through gaining wisdom, expanding their knowledge, getting closer to their higher self. But even at that state of happiness through expanding your understanding by getting closer to wisdom, that is not true inner peace. So we are presenting something very, very, very special today. And this is the knowledge that passing down, which help us understand the path to true inner peace. And this might sound huge, right? But in fact, it is very simple. And thanks, Giovanni, for your interaction, which greatly helped me introduce, presenting the next important point. Well, thanks to my teacher, the expert, all the wise men of the past. They give us a very clear description, happiness through inner peace, which is the peak of happiness, the highest of the high. And I would like to read the description again, and then we will go over how to get there. So happiness through inner peace is a state of inner perception when desire and thought about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting are released, stopped, ended, or dissociated. as in you no longer chasing after prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. You are above that. Inner peace is also said to be a state of inner perception that originated from the genuine truth within ourselves, the genuine truth within ourselves, arising from listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing without attachment to the layer of ego, which is also known as the sixth human nature. Inner peace is the state of inner perception that no one is listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing. This initiation creates the empty self within, emitting the radiant energy of peace. So one thing very, very interesting that Giovanni brought up is the will to hear. And what Giovanni said earlier, if somebody catch what he said, is that if we were to add the letter T to hear, we will have the letter heart. So the path of hearing is very important to the journey of connecting to your inner peace. Or I would like to also call it the path to find your heart, to keep it simple, to follow your heart to hearing. And the X will tell us that the very first moment, the genuine truth, the very first moment that you hear something or you hear something, at that split second, it is the genuine truth. And why is that? It's true hearing and it's true saying because it doesn't go through the layer of emotion or the layer of ego. For example, let's say if I was to compliment Giovanni on his voice today, like his voice is really clear and very powerful, very manly today. All right. So imagine that one. Just imagine that I giving you a compliment, like let's say I'll tell Jasmine that you are beautiful today, or Jesse, I'll tell you that you are beautiful today. How you feel when I say that determine how the information interact with each layer of your inner self. So your inner self contains the heart, the ego, and the emotion. So when I tell you that you are beautiful, and let's say you thank me, you say, "Oh, I appreciate your compliment," then that means that the information of me telling you how beautiful you are receiving it at the emotion layer. So that is not receiving the information to the heart because the information got received at the emotion layer. But if I tell you that you are beautiful and you start wondering, like, why am I saying that? Like, is it because of the shirt I'm wearing, or is it because of the headphone that I'm wearing? If you are starting to analytical and analysis, then that means the information got stuck as ego. But if you can just receive the information and just know that you receive the information, if you can just hear it, see it, speak it, and know it in that split second without getting it attached to the 16 human layer or the 84,000 for illusion, then by definition, you are receiving the information. That means you are receiving inner peace. So let me write the word receive here.
Hey Ben, I have a question. Is that shape, Ben, is that shape a
Yes.
cup?
So this is like a tunnel. It's almost like
Okay.
a boat. So
Alright,
instead of
I see it, no, because I see it as a cup.
Okay.
So the way
Okay.
I feel it is like if your cup is full with emotions
and
and things of the ego,
then
then you're not gonna receive
that information from the heart.
uh-huh. Yep. That is a way to see it as well. It's all relative. And yes, that is a beautiful way to see us as well. So if your cup is full, if your filter is full of emotion and full of ego, then the information cannot reach your heart.
yes.
And inner peace, that is all inner peace is about. And let me go ahead and use the word inner peace. Inner peace. It is as simple as this. It's easy to say, but definitely a little bit harder to do. And I'm gonna say receiving. All right. And to make it clear, if we react to the information, and that's mean we use the emotion layer. If we react to it, and that's mean the information stop as the emotion layer. And if we start to analyze this, if we start to analyze the information, analyze, analysis. Yep. Or if we start to analyze the information, why did man tell me that I am beautiful today, for example, then the information got stuck at the ego. But if you just receive it without any reaction to it, without analyze what it is, then it's mean that you are listening truthfully, or as in receiving the information truthfully. And by doing this, you will reach inner peace and you receiving the genuine true oneself. So it is as simple as that. But if we can discuss more on this so we can understand it better. But all I can tell you right now is that this is the formula. And this is the reason many spiritual practitioners recommend meditation and practicing meditation so they can get to this inner peace, so they can exercise in this, so that when information comes, they don't react to it too much. If not, pretty much like not at all. And in happiness study, we learn about the oops moment, as in when you are centered, when you achieve in that inner peace, and you feel that you are floating away from that peaceful concentration. And it's not even really concentration, it's just inner peace. When we realize that we can go back, we realize that we had that first moment, and we go back to our inner peace. So this is a very, very important formula to achieve and acquire inner peace, to get closer to your higher self, to open up wisdom, and to truly find your genuine truth. Uh, which would anybody like to share your realization, or maybe there's some part that you have question where we can discuss, because we are getting to a part where I have to use the interaction to explore this concept a little bit further. Yes, let's borrow Giovanni again. What do you think about this? And I'm interested in hearing what you said earlier about your clarification if this is a cup or not. It could be see at the cup. It could be see as a tunnel to get to the heart.
I just see it, yeah, it's funny, because when I was young, my cousin and I used to take cups and make them like into phones where we can hear each other. So when I see this diagram, I see a cup connecting to the heart. And I think that the whole point of inner peace is for us to communicate with each other from this place of stillness that is inside of us. It's, if we're talking about the heart, then inner peace is, that pause that's in between our heartbeats, that's where we can find our truth. So I think that if we're reacting or if we're analyzing, we're moving into opposite ends of that, heartbeat. And the whole point is to find the inner stillness, which is that inner peace in between the heartbeats, in between breaths, where we can receive, the most genuine truth, information, anything that we, want to question can be answered from that place. And I think that that's what makes us all superheroes when we use it. First, we have to find it, go on that journey, and we gain knowledge. And this is all knowledge, but it doesn't become wisdom until you start applying it into your life. And then it's not only when you start applying it, but when you start teaching it to other people, and helping them find the inner peace, that's where the magic happens. So I just want to thank you for putting all this together, because just seeing it this way, it makes a little bit more sense to me, because we have to use inner peace to harmonize ourselves, as an individual first, our heart and mind, which from that stillness, we can have this steady flow of energy that we can use, to create good in our life and in our communities, and expand that, into the world eventually.
Right.
So yeah, I just appreciate all of this.
Thanks, Giovanni. So the concept of inner peace expand beyond just a simple feeling of inner peace, because if the description is just finding peace, then is, to me, like when I was younger, when I look at spiritual practitioner and people who do like yoga pose and do breathing exercise, I thought it was really weird. Like, why would you do that? It's just to find peace. Then I find peace walking around too. I find peace playing games too. Well, of course, inner peace can give us a lot more than that. And one of it is wisdom. One of it is the understanding of how the world around us moves. And I would like to share with everyone like one of the experience that I had in my dream. And that, I think, that is the only time that I experience inner peace at its best. And some people might think that, oh, it's just a dream, like why you are making a big deal out of it. So for me, it's a little bit different, because I dream a lot, but there are dreams where I see everything much clearer than what I am seeing right now. I can experience things at a much deeper level. And long story short, in one of my dreams, toward the end of my dream, I had this experience, right? Well, I had an experience in my dream where I reached this enlightenment, this awakening, where my mind expands to the universe and I truly feel peaceful, absolute peace. And in that experience, I can tell you that I have absolutely no question because deep down, I already have all the answer. And as I flow through the cosmos itself, as my mind expands, I just have all of the understanding. And of course, I can only use words to describe the way that I feel, but to me, that is inner peace. That is the state where you have all of the information of the world. And let's going back to this diagram here. So why is it, all right? Have you ever questioned that why is it that in order to reach inner peace, in order to find happiness through inner peace, why is it that the desire and thought of prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting are released, stopped, ended, or dissociated, as in you no longer concerned about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting. And I can tell you that it is because we reach the understanding of how life goes. We have gained the knowledge, we have gained the wisdom, and a thought experience that I want you to have is, let's say, most people have the sometime in their life they would wish that they had win the lottery, for example, right? Because say in the US, if you win the lottery, you have a lot of money. You potentially have millions, sometimes even billion of dollars. And some people they would dream of winning the lottery. But let's say Elon Musk, for example, does he have that desire to win the lottery? Probably not, because he has already owned billions and billions of dollars. By adding a few million or even $1 billion to his bank account, that probably wouldn't make that much of a difference. So the thought exercise here is when you already have it, then you no longer have the desire for it. But if maybe you still have the desire for something, that means you not truly own it yet, right? So the definition of inner peace, where the desire and thought about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting are stopped, released, ended, or dissociated. That's mean you're no longer concerned of all five of that element. Because the truth is you have already owned it. You already have the answer to all of it. So the state of inner peace means that you already have it, you already reached that. And the expert and the great master tell us that the truth is we have already have it. We already gained all of it, all of the beauty in the world, all of the prosperity, fame, eating, and resting, we already have within us. And I would like to borrow one of the famous quotes from Plato, who is the great thinker of ancient Greek. He said that everything that we learn, they are not new. We are just relearning them. And Plato is famous for saying that everything we desire, we already have within us. And some people might call the heart, our spirit, or even our higher self, a different name for it. And you can call it however you like. Like even God, in the Bible, it said that God created human in his own image. So in a way, we are very, very godlike. So the formula to find your genuine truth, to elevate your wisdom, to truly find inner peace is something that people in the thousand, if not millions year seek. They want to find their inner peace. Their there's an expression that how like some people some spiritual people they have the expression when they interact with someone, and they sometimes they say that that person is an old soul. That person's soul is ancient. So as in someone's spirit, someone, it's the higher self of that person, or the genuine self, right? The genuine self of that person is very, very old, and then that person is very, very wise. The great thinker tell us that we all have that within us. It just a matter if we can connect to that or not. And for those who have studied happiness studies, or for those who are familiar with the flow state by Dr. Chickson, by Harley, in the research of the flow state, when he interviewed people who reach like the highest level of performance, whether it is a professional athlete or a singer or a researcher. After a lot of interviews, he found there's a common in all of these high performance, and those can be explained in a state of flow. So if you can just change the word, the state of flow, to the state of inner peace, then pretty much you will gain a great understanding of the true meaning of inner peace. So in the state of flow, or let's just call it the state of inner peace, it describes that space and time is getting dissociated, as in the person kind of lost track of time, and when they are in that state, they can perform beautifully. So let's say a singer, when he or she perform, they can sing beautifully. They don't have to think about what is the next word that they have to sing, or if they need to sing a little bit higher pitch, or however. Or let's say a pianist doesn't have to think about what is the next note that they have to hit. They just do it. They just perform. They just project it out beautifully. Or an athlete in a basketball game or a soccer game, they just perform. They don't even think about what is the next step. They just do it. They just flow. And in that state, the entirety, the human structure of the body, mind, and soul are one, and they reach that peak performance. In some cases, we have researcher or scientists who's spending their entire life, their entire career to study a theory, a law. And when they get into this state of flow, or let's just call it the state of inner peace. They are able to download the knowledge that they need, and they present it in their research study. A lot of them start by the term called thought exercise or thought experience. But the truth is, by reaching that flow state, by reaching that inner peace state, they are able to download knowledge. They get closer to their higher self. They gain their wisdom. They get the genuine truth, which is knowledge of the world. So inner peace and happiness have a much higher meaning, a much deeper meaning. It is the understanding of the universe itself. And it starts with the will to hear. As in, are you listening? Are you listening to the world? Are you listening to everything? Not everything around you, but something deep within you. In the movie I Am Legend, Will Smith played in that movie. It is an apocalypse movie, and there's something about there's a line in that movie that just stuck in my head, and pretty much toward the end of the movie, Will Smith, he thought that he was the last man survive in that movie, but then a survivor show up, right? I think a lady and her son. It's been a long time. I forgot if there is even a son, but pretty much the lady said something very interesting. She said that the world is more empty now. So if you are listening, you can hear God himself. Very, very interesting expression. So the same thing apply here. Yes, the world is very crowded and there are a lot of noises. But if we pay attention, if we're listening, if we hear, if we have that will to hear, we will be able to hear that genuine truth. We will be able to hear that wisdom. We will be able to connect to our higher self. And that is only the first step, right? If we can be in more control of what we are hearing, what we are seeing, we will be able to connect to our higher self, to reach our genuine truth. And we will have that will to speak and the will to know surrounded by that radiant aura, which is an extremely high energy, extremely balanced. Formula to reach, to achieve inner peace is actually a simple one to practice, a simple one to exercise. As in when you receive information, we receive it through the heart. We don't let the layer of emotion, we don't let the layer of ego stopping the information coming to us. And I would like to reach the definition of happiness through inner peace one more time. So the teacher tells us that happiness through inner peace is a state of inner perception when desires and thought about prosperity, beauty, fame, eating, and resting are released, stopped, ended, or dissociated. Inner peace is the state of inner perception that originates from the genuine truth within oneself, arising from listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing without attachment to the layer of ego and emotion. And inner peace is a state of inner perception that knows one in listening, seeing, speaking, and knowing. And that initiation creates an empty self from within, emitting the radiant energy of peace. And that is toward the very end of my presentation. And to keep it simpler, to use the term that is more familiar with the Western culture, please allow me to simplify it in the three part of the human structure that more people are familiar with. And again, this is the genuine truth, genuine knowledge, which doesn't change through space time. So throughout different culture, throughout different teaching, you will find different description of this, but just know that they are all talking about the same thing. They are all talking about the same idea. So if you were to see the outermost layer as the body, and we also have the mind. And we also have the spirit. Yeah. Most people, including myself, live most of my life without knowing my spirit. My friend would know this to be true, even though I am a very spiritual person. I just realized that now, thanks to my friend. But to tell you the truth, most of my life I believe in science, right? As in, I only believe what I see. I only believe when I see it. And I love learning. So most of my time, I would try to connect the body with the mind. There is absolutely no concern of the spirit. So the ideas of inner peace that we introduce today is a very important concept. Because when you receive information with your spirit, special thing will happen, beautiful thing will happen. And to keep it simple, we need to connect the three parts, body, the mind, and spirit. With the mind, you can simply understand it as, let's see, with the mind, you can simply understand it as the ego and the emotion. So this would be another part. So the mind, we can just simple it as the ego. That's it's called emotion. Emotion. And ego. And understanding this, we will know how to let our spirit out. All right. So yes, information in, not getting blocked by the emotion and the ego. The beautiful thing about this is when you let the information in to the heart, it is also about letting the heart out, expressing it. And to my understanding, this is why the innermost layer is called the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. Because your higher self, your inner self, always have the desire to hear, to speak, to see, and to know. And I know this is quite personal, but I know Giovanni had this experience many, many times. And I hope that through this presentation, you gain a better understanding of where that is coming from. Because there are times that I speak to you when I ask you questions and you just projecting information out. I truly believe that it is your heart that projecting out those information. It is your spirit that projecting out those information. And those are called the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. It is a very strong desire of the inner self to share with the world the absolute truth of knowledge. And this is the reason that sometimes when we speak, sometimes we can connect to our soul when we connect to our inner peace, we speak of the truth and we live by the truth. And this is something very, very special that I would like to share with everyone. And um, I see Giovanni is open his mic. Let's hear his thought, and then I guess we will see each other again next week. Yes, thanks, Giovanni. Feel free to.
Oh, Ben, I just wanted to say one thing. That it's not just you, like everyone's a spiritual being. That's the genuine truth. The reason is because if you were to look up the word spirit, it just means to breathe, to take in a breath. Right. So the fact that we're sitting here and we're all breathing, we're all spiritual beings. And when it comes to the heart, it's one of the only organs where we can use all of our senses as a filter. So we can hear through our heart, we can know through our heart, we can see through our heart. And we can, feel through our heart too, which is important when you have the body. So for me, the state of flow is kind of a balanced state between the mind, body, and our spirit, and it's using the heart basically as the mechanism to find that flow state, which is just a steady surge of energy, where we're not losing energy, we're not really gaining energy, we're just being energy and creating with it. So I would just suggest to people to really try to play with it. I use meditation to connect either my body or my mind, to my spirit, and I can do that by slowing down my breathing and trying to feel my heart. That's connecting it with my body. I can use meditation to go into my breathing and make sense of my thoughts, and that's using the mind. And I can also use meditation to just go into the stillness and bypass everything. And that's where you get the authenticity from. We all have that capacity. It just, it's just determined by our willingness to really know truth. Because sometimes when you're trying to find out what truth is, it means you're not going to be right most of the time. And that could be damaging to our egos. I mean, because we made the egos to protect us. And that could bring up a lot of emotions in the way, too, that we have to make sense of. So just giving ourselves, the permission to be human and to use all of this information as our own science experiment for ourselves to be better for us. First, when we're in the airplane, they tell you first put the mask on your own face before you, try to help anybody else. And if you really want to change the world, it begins with trying to change yourself, figuring out why you think a certain way. Do you really believe what you think of? Is it just something that you learn that you want to believe? And, we all believe in something, but to know something takes experience, and when we go through the experience, we get to a point where we don't have to believe anymore. We just know. And, you can hear it when people speak. You can see it, how people act. You can know by how they think. what truth is. Your soul just knows what truth is, you know. So listen to what's truth, become that truth, and you'll see right through the illusion. I mean, really, I mean, there's so much illusion out there that when you look at it, you don't have to have feeling towards it. You can just say, okay, that's part of the illusion. That's the illusion. That's an illusion. Oh, there's truth. And when you find the truth, you hold on to that, and you keep trying to make more sense of it. And that's how you get, you know, to this place of inner peace. It's an easy road to get to. It's just very hard to travel. You know, when you don't have all of this information. And I think you giving this information is kind of like a roadmap for everyone to use, because we can start doing this right now. I mean, as soon as we're done with this call, we can apply this in our life to really try to understand what truth is. You know, and a lot of us will, and a lot of us, we're not ready for it yet. And that's okay. We're each on our own journey, you know, but the important thing is to just try to see where it takes you. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen from finding truth is, you know, if you become the same person you are at the start of your journey, then you'll be fine. But there's nothing negative that can happen to you by trying to discover your own truth.
Thank you, Ronnie. That is beautiful. And I am losing my voice. I don't know why, like whenever I share this topic, I just feel the energy, and it's really, really great. And before we end this, everyone, the genuine truth has different name. We can call it the spirit. We can call it the heart. One thing that I can tell you is that once you get closer to it, once you own it, you will feel this love, this incredible energy of love, never-ending love, because you truly understand how this words go, and it is absolutely beautiful. You will feel appreciation. You will have so much gratitude toward people. You will have so much compassion for others, because you truly understand where they are coming from, why they behave in a certain way. And as Giovanni said, there are so many illusions, 84,000 bubble illusion according to the human structure. But you can have compassion toward them, have love, and this is the true end game here. You know, help yourself so you can help others, so that you can truly find love, truly find peace, truly find happiness through inner peace. And I know there's a lot to take in, but just engrave this formula in your mind, and one day you will really realize, oh, it is that simple. Because the truth, it is a lot more simple than complicated, right? And with that, I thank you for joining us on this Zoom call. I would like to thank those who watched this recording, and I will see you next week. Go into the third reference system, the triangle of reality. All right, and thanks for joining. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.